Today we're gonna talk about 5 things that I wish I knew when I was starting out my journey with alcohol markers. I really wish I had someone back then to tell me all of those things just to prevent me from spending extra effort, time and money. So well, that's what we're gonna be doing today. So if you guys wanna hear all of that pieces of advice, then make sure you keep on watching. Okay, so my first advice, and probably the most important and crucial, is that you really don't need all of the markers. You don't need those super extra 300 plus color sets. You're really gonna be fine with just a very limited amount, believe me. I used to be a person that thought the more the better, and I need to own every single color and shade of the marker there is, because that's the only way that I'm gonna make good drawings with a good variety of colors and shades. And believe me, that's not true. When I was starting out, I was buying markers like crazy because I knew that I need to get my collection ready to be able to create good pieces. But then within time, I noticed that I gravitate towards my favorite colors the most. Meaning that considering the type of drawings that I do, meaning characters, girls, I would mostly gravitate towards skin tones, hair colors, so kind of like neutral palette. And then obviously I'm gonna need some extra colors for coloring denim, for example, and some other parts of clothing. So just some extra color is needed as well. But do I really need 300 markers to be able to create my pieces? No. And here you guys are probably gonna be a little bit surprised, because I bet that some of you probably thought that I own this huge Copic marker collection, which in fact, no, I don't, because really I don't want to spend my money on that. And I own only like maybe 50 Copic markers, which in fact I maybe use like 20 of these on a regular basis. So yeah, instead of actually putting your money into huge collections of Copic markers or any other markers to get this huge variety of colors, I do think that you should actually see what kind of colors you're using the most, and then buy these colors as the sort of base for your collection, and then maybe add some new colors from time to time. But here what I'm trying to say with my first piece of advice: think what colors are you gonna need the most and then purchase those. In my case, I don't use a lot of vibrant colors in my illustrations. I would mostly gravitate towards neutral colors, so these are the colors, the markers that I have the most of. But then, for example, when it comes to red shades or green shades, yes, I do own plenty because, you know, it's my job, but I'm using maybe like maximum 3 shades of red and 4 shades of green, and that's pretty much all, and that's all you're gonna need, because also markers can blend into each other, so you really don't need like a huge collection of markers. Okay, the second thing that I want to share with you guys is about layering of markers. And here I used to think that the more I layer my colors, the better the blending will be. And that's partially true, but coming from my own experience, that's not totally true for me. Because as you guys know, I like to use colored pencils as a supplement to my marker drawings. So for me, only maximum 2-3 layers are more than enough. So that being said, what I like to do is first I'm putting a flat layer of color just to fill in the area that I want to color, and then with a slightly darker marker I'm doing a little bit of shading, and then sometimes if I feel like it and if I want to do a little bit more of a precise blending, I'm going in with the previous color that I used as my base color to kind of like blend it all together. But other than that, I'm not doing like 10 layers of colors just to have the seamless blending if I'm going with colored pencils to cover this up anyway. So this is something I've learned throughout the years of using alcohol-based markers and kind of perfecting my technique. But also why I'm mentioning this sort of method and why is it important, especially for me, is also the more layers you would do with your marker, the faster you will run out of the ink in your marker. So That's also a budget-friendly way to use your markers to not overdo the layering, because that's also kind of equals money, right? So yeah, I definitely advise you guys trying out this method. The third piece of advice that I have for you guys is about the relation between cheap and expensive markers. And here, if your budget allows you to buy only brush markers, then go for it. Brush markers are the best. They are the most comfortable to work with, at least for me personally. So if you have money, then go for it. Brush markers are definitely the best. But if you're on a budget, or if you just want to save up some coins and don't want to spend a huge, crazy amount of money on brush markers, then I have a solution for that. So speaking from my own experience, I use brush markers mostly for coloring in the skin and hair. That's like a must for me to have brush markers while coloring those elements, because it just makes everything more seamless, especially the skin blending, and it just makes everything easier and more effortless. So in this department, this area of drawing, I would really invest in some good brush markers and in some good shades as well. But here, referring back to my first point of this video, you don't need to go crazy. Just buy a couple of shades and you should be fine. And then once you have your expensive markers for the most crucial parts of the drawing, like skin and hair, like I mentioned, then you can just, you know, save up some coins, and for the, let's say, rest of the drawing, like clothes, shoes, accessories, details, you will be more than fine buying some cheaper markers, some cheaper alternatives, dupes, for example, and yeah, you don't need much more than that, because when we draw characters, the main focus would be obviously the face. So here we're gonna need the most detail, most precision, the most seamless blending, but then the rest doesn't require that much precision. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you should just perfect the skin and face and leave the rest alone, but I do think that some parts of the drawing can be done with, you know, cheaper markers, because the difference won't be that visible, believe me. Here I'm also not saying that you can't do a drawing only with cheap markers, because like I showed in my previous videos, cheaper markers are up there and you can definitely make a great drawing using them. But when it comes to how to distribute your money between cheaper and more expensive markers, this is my kind of go-to division, let's say. So expensive markers for skin and hair, and then cheaper alternatives for the rest of the drawing. Okay, the next advice is more about the technicalities of the storage of markers. And this I really wish I knew sooner, because I would avoid throwing my markers away a couple of times, and that would really make me save up some money. So I really hope that you guys will find this piece of advice useful. And what I'm talking about is that you should store your markers horizontally, not vertically. And well, I used to do that mistake a lot myself, because, you know, storing markers or any art supplies vertically is kind of our go-to, and I believe this is what most of the people do. Just put your markers, art supplies in some kind of container, put it on the table, and it's just how it is. But the problem with markers, and especially those that are dual-ended, is that in the barrel there's ink, and the ink needs to be distributed quite evenly for your both nibs of the markers to function evenly. And considering that, if you store your markers vertically, then the ink is gonna flow down to one side of the marker, one nib, while the other nib is gonna probably dry out if you don't use it regularly. And this tip is really huge. It was surely a game changer once I found out about this, and I switched all of my containers to lie horizontally instead of vertically. And since I did that, I don't have any problems with my markers drying out or going bad. So yeah, guys, check your storages, your containers that you keep your markers in, because that's like super important. And the last advice also tackles the technical aspect of drawing with alcohol markers. And here I'm gonna talk about how important it is to pick a proper paper for your marker drawings. And here, believe me, I used to just grab my printer paper and do my marker drawings on that, and I used to be kind of frustrated that the blending is not good enough, that the paper is ripping apart when I'm trying to layer markers on top of each other, and it was basically just a disaster. And once I found out that there's something like marker paper, I was kind of surprised because I didn't hear about it before, and I decided to give it a go, and believe me, I was so surprised to see how big of a difference it is between like a regular paper, normal paper, compared to a professional marker paper. I think that a lot of people are confused with marker papers because they probably think it's just this sort of trick to make you buy something a bit more specific to a certain art medium because, you know, it's an extra product, extra money, so probably companies are trying to scam you or whatever, but that's not the case here. Markers are really demanding because they have this alcohol-based ink which makes the blending more efficient and more seamless, but the ground for it, the surface, needs to be prepared to take this sort of medium. And here, marker paper is pretty crucial, because here normal papers would absorb much more ink, leading up to drying up your markers quicker, meaning you're gonna spend more money on your markers. And also you're gonna get frustrated because the blending is not gonna be good enough. So here, if you want to work with alcohol-based markers, investing in markers is just as important as investing in good alcohol marker paper. So make sure you don't forget about that, because you're gonna see a huge difference in your markers performance and also the whole experience of using alcohol-based markers on a proper paper. And yeah, that would be pretty much all from me today. I really hope that some of the advice was helpful for you guys, that you didn't know about it. Let me know in the comments. And yeah, that will be pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you're having a good day. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon in the next one. See you, bye!